where you scream to watch this, and I'll dive down through this hairy flesh.
You're watching Watch This with CJ Johnson, joined again by Miriam Kappa, and we are going to look at the live action version of Ghost in the Shell.
This is Major. I'm on site. I'm going in.
In 1989, Ghost in the Shell emerged as a manga property and became very successful. It spawned a feature-length anime film in 1995, then 2 television series, one of which was, I gather, a prequel to the film. Now it's a live-action film directed by Rupert Sanders and starring Scarlett Johansson. Johansson plays Major. She is a cyborg dedicated to battling a new kind of cyber terrorism. She is entirely a robot in body and entirely a human in brain. Hi, Miriam.
Hi, CJ.
So you had not seen the anime or read the manga or seen the television series.
No.
You approached this cold?
Totally cold. I didn't even watch the trailer before I went in. So
Cool.
yeah, it was pretty exciting getting into the room and feeling the energy of so many people and the weight on the shoulders of this film because of how much it means to so many different people.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It means a lot to a lot of people. And you saw it in 3D.
I did see it in 3D, yes.
So what did you think?
I thought it was really exciting, especially the opening sequence. I was really involved with everything was kind of coming at me, but not in an overwhelming way to start. But as it went on, I felt I was getting more and more overwhelmed with the 3G and the CGI. So I had quite mixed feelings about it. CJ, what did you think?
Okay, I watched half of the anime the night before I saw it.
Yep.
And then I watched it, and then I watched the second half of the film, the anime film from 95, last night after I'd seen it. So I sort of divided the source material and put this new one in the middle.
In the middle.
But until that, I knew about it, but I'd never seen any of its iterations. I think it is weird and unsettling and creepy and strange and kind of marvelous for all of those things, because considering that this is a Paramount picture with other financing as well, a lot of Asian financing, but essentially it's a Hollywood studio film that's very expensive, and you know it's being advertised on buses and on bus stops. You know, it's designed to make money. And considering it's that kind of Hollywood studio product, I'm very impressed with how very, very odd this is. Like, this is a really weird, fucked up, strange, sad movie. And it feels like a very personal vision. And I'm really impressed that this is a Hollywood studio product, because this is so far away from like mainstream superhero movies you can get. I mean, it's so full of melancholy. The central characters in this film are constantly yearning for humanity, and they're so sad that they're cyborgs. And you know, there's so much pain in this movie.
Yeah.
It's so dark.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a happy film.
Yeah,
You see what I mean?
I absolutely see what you mean. I think that even the fact that people are playing cyborgs or playing people that are non-human, to be able to still translate that need for identity and for understanding and humanity in the world, I think is really exciting. Because you see it even in the complete robots. You still see that desperateness to live, or to whatever living means, which I guess is one of the central questions of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the central question of the film, I mean, the film looks, as you can see from the photos behind us, it looks like Blade Runner. It's obviously indebted to and inspired by, in terms of the look of the cityscapes, Blade Runner. And I reckon that the original manga was also inspired both by Blade Runner and by its source material, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the novel by Philip K. Dick. Because that novel and that movie, Blade Runner, it's about cyborgs questioning the boundaries of their own humanity and coming up short and getting melancholic, getting sad about the fact that their humanity only goes so far before it butts into their robotic selves. And that's precisely what this movie is about too, on a thematic level. It's about cyborgs, artificial intelligence, and those creatures that are half, you know, who are robotic, you know, cyborgs, androids, robots who have human brains, coming to terms with the fact that their humanity only goes so far before they become robots and vice versa. And so I feel that this is linked to Blade Runner in many ways that way. So we've seen it before, but what's interesting is that as a society, we've caught up.
Yeah.
You know, we are now closer to that all becoming a reality.
Yeah.
And so it's worth seeing it again.
Absolutely. Isn't it? Elon Musk was recently saying that the head of Tesla was saying that the only way for us to be able to keep up with what's going on right now in terms of AIs and robotics is to be able to have some kind of cyborgness about us so that we can be competitive in this world that we're creating for ourselves. So yeah, it feels so current, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, just look at, you know, the guy who, the South African runner, Oscar Petraeus, is it, with his legs and,
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
look at the prosthetic arms that people have these days. So, you know, we get closer and closer all the time. This movie takes that to the next level. Scarlett Johansson's character, Major, her entire body is robotic, but it is covered in this skin. So she looks essentially like Scarlett Johansson. But I mean, let's get straight into her performance. Her performance is physically bold and brave. Like, she is playing a robot with a human brain. The way she moves is different to the way you and I walk. She's got a specific gait, and it's actually subtly based on the character in the 1995 anime.
Oh, is that right? That makes a lot of sense for her to study that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The cartoon character in the anime walks in a specific way that Scarlett Johansson echoes in this film. Because you notice she had a very specific gait.
Absolutely, but I also felt that she had this real presence that was connected to something other, something ethereal, which is something that's really hard to translate into physical movements because it's almost as though her focus is outwards because she has so many connections coming to her anyway through the grid. So I think that's quite exciting. But absolutely her physicality. And in the moments where she was contemplating her humanity, you would still see her doing it in a way that was so subtle and only partly human. To be able to communicate that, I think, is really exciting.
Yeah, her performance, again, is full of pain and grief and suffering. It's a vulnerable performance. She is always kind of questing and sad in her expressions, and even the way she moves her head and the way she uses her eyes, like, it is highly specific. And what's interesting about her is that she's on this trip, you know, with Lucy, where she played like this evolved human who could sort of do all these things, who is essentially cyrogenically enhanced, and with Under the Skin, where she played an alien who literally, like this character that is a robot under the skin. In that film, it was revealed that she was an alien under a human skin. And now with this, and also I suppose to a degree with Black Widow in the Avengers series, she is on this trip of playing humans that aren't human, that are actually cyborgs or aliens or superheroes or enhanced in some way. And she's been doing it only since 2014. Now, I'm sure that she is one of the most in-demand A-list actresses in the world. So she has obviously made this choice to explore this kind of performance, and no one else is doing it. Like, Alicia Vikander did it in Ex Machina in 2015 on a very lower budget level, and she did it really well. But no one else is choosing deliberately to do this, to explore this kind of performance, and it's brave.
Absolutely it is, and that's what I was thinking when you were saying that as well. Even in her, she's doing that to some extent. Of course, she's not doing it physically, but in terms of her character, all of the vocal work that she did for that. So yeah, that is really exciting. And I think for her, it's so easy. I mean, now that she's a big star, she can really do whatever she wants. But so easily she could have, absolutely, so easily she could have been put into the you're a beautiful model kind of role. But she's playing these people that aren't even necessarily people and showing the humanity of that. I mean, I wonder if that even comes down to her background of being a model and being seen as just an object. I wonder if that plays into it in any way at all.
Maybe. I mean, she's obviously exploring something. She's obviously interested in technology. And I think as an actor, she's interested in doing more than hitting her marks and being truthful. She's going for something bigger. Because her performance here is, I think it's really remarkable. I mean, she's essential to the movie. Her character in this film is bigger than her character in the anime. in the anime, you've got a lot more scenes where she's not the central figure.
Okay.
So they've expanded her and they've given her more of an emotional backstory, which I guess they've taken maybe from the TV series, the prequel, because the whole thing about finding her mother and all of this, that's all been built up for the movie. And it's a challenging thing that she's doing.
Most definitely. I think that the most interesting parts of the film are the parts you mentioned just now, when she is finding her backstory, where she meets her mother, and when she's trying to discover who she is, I think is the most interesting. I feel like those could have really been expanded, although it seems like you're saying it has been expanded already.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like we could have gone more into that, particularly at the end. I felt like the film became more and more about different cool ways that you could show fighting, that I started kind of retreating from just like overwhelming fight scenes. You didn't feel that at all?
No. In fact, I was impressed with how little action sequences there were in this film.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there are lots of good action sequences, but they don't dominate the film in the way they dominate, for example, a superhero movie. I thought there was a lot of imagery and atmospheric scene setting and a lot of just character stuff that was much more intriguing to me than the action sequences. Some of the stuff, like there is a spider tank, and that is taken from the anime, so that directly references that. And there is a moment in that sequence that is directly from the anime, is shot for shot, which must have obviously been a favorite moment from that film, and so they've transferred that, which I like. But then there are things about that sequence that are different. For example, there's another character in that sequence, and that character is very different to how that character is portrayed in the anime. The character that's played in this film by Michael Pitt.
Yes.
The Puppet Master.
Yeah.
The Puppet Master appears in this film very different than the anime. And I thought the scenes between the Puppet Master and her, which really slow down the film deliberately at the start of the third act, I thought were really fantastic. I was really intrigued by them. And I really felt this great sense of melancholy and sadness as these two, robots tried to understand the nature of how to go on living and whether it was even worth to go on living. They felt like two little orphan children.
Yes, I definitely felt that. And as someone who hadn't been familiar with the franchise, I think you could see that coming to an extent. You could see this, she has no one, she's the first of her kind, how is she going to find someone to connect with? There needed to be another character of her equal that she could find. And when they had that moment, it could have so easily turned into this, that's the moment where she's going into the depths of evil as well. But instead it really just became about finding someone who was just like you and being able to have that opportunity to, it really felt like an orphan moment, didn't it?
Yeah.
And then meeting again for the first time, despite, can I say, potentially knowing each other in the past.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to spoil this film, partly because it is so incomprehensible on a plot level.
Yeah.
And I do think it's failing. And it's the same with the anime. Like, the anime is like, what? And this is also like, what? I mean, if you come to this cold, I imagine it's really hard to get your head around in terms of plot and story. I think the storytelling is its big failing. The first act in particular, I found incomprehensible. But as it settled into its groove, I settled into my own mode of appreciating it, which was on a tonal and mood and visual level. And I stopped worrying about trying to follow the plot. And then by the third act, I was sort of grooving with the plot.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It became a lot simpler as it went on.
Yeah.
The whole establishing every character and every different network of
Very tricky.
lies was really difficult to get on board with. Yeah, I agree. But it was almost like I was on a roller coaster, to be honest. I'm there watching these amazing magical fish just swimming through the streets. I was like, why is there a fish? Yeah, I really do feel like I'm in some kind of beautiful hotel or something.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I got to the point where I was looking at the beauty, especially the underwater scene. How amazing is the underwater scene where she's having some time out? But I was looking at that beauty, but then I really did feel like I was in this world where technology was consuming me, where the constant backdrop of the noise of electronic noises and being in 3D, having this these amazing visuals coming at me for what? How long was the film? Nearly 2 hours.
No, it's quite short. It's only 1 hour 40.
Okay, so I really felt like it was nearly 2 hours.
Right.
So I really did feel overwhelmed by the end of the film. And maybe perhaps if I understood the plot, then I wouldn't have to concentrate so hard and the visuals wouldn't have got to me so much. But yeah, for me, it was a really sensorial experience, and in a negative way at times.
Okay. I saw it in 2D, so I didn't get that overwhelming feeling. And to me, it felt like a brisk film at 1 hour 40, so I didn't have that experience. It's because it's set in a future that's the natural progression of our current state, which is that corporations and government are virtually indistinguishable. That's confusing at the beginning. Like, it's almost impossible to tell who she's working for because government looks like corporate and corporate looks like government. And, you know, it's really hard to get a sense of the two different camps, I suppose. But ultimately it ends up, I guess, that she is working for the guy played by the great Japanese actor and director Beat Takashi Kitano, his character. And towards the end of the film, his character really becomes someone quite amazing, really, really cool in his...
Absolutely.
You know, he spends most of the film sort of behind a desk, but then he emerges from the desk and becomes cool. And the other main actor in the film is the Danish actor, Pilu Asbæk.
Yes.
And Pilu Asbæk came to prominence in a television show called Borgen, and he's been in a lot of really interesting Danish films, such as A War. And here he is doing his first big budget sort of Hollywood film. And I thought, oh, part of the reason you'd cast him is because his eyes are so amazing and buggy.
Yeah.
And then, like, very quickly in the film, he gets these cybergenetic eyes over his eyes.
They were hard to look at. I found them really hard to look at.
Well, they looked so painful to wear. And as soon as he gets them, his character becomes more pained, becomes more burdened, which totally ties in with the themes of the film. Like, there's this amazingly strange, melancholic scene where they're driving, and he says, like, oh, driving is harder ever since I got these things.
Yeah.
And it was a perfect little sort of throwaway moment that meant so much, because it's like, you're right. I thought of, like, wow, you know where my brain went? It went to, like, we wouldn't have Donald Trump if it wasn't for Twitter, if it wasn't for the digital revolution, if it wasn't for our devices. You know, like, he thought he needed these things, but now they're making driving worse. And I thought we needed all this stuff, but it's given us Trump.
Yeah, the simplest things that you get in life actually become more complicated because of something that you think is going to be useful for something much bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like technology is advancing faster than our ability to cope with it.
Absolutely. And I feel like that is such a strong part of this film.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we can make cyborgs, but do we want them? And do they want to be them?
Yeah, which comes back to that theme of her as well. There's that, do we even want to be here? You can create us, but is there any point for us really in this world? And why have you got us here? And everyone's so obsessed with the idea of weapons and being able to be the strongest. But I mean, just like we see right now with everyone having these nuclear standoffs, the more weapons you have doesn't necessarily mean a better world. It just means you've got more things to threaten other people with.
Yeah.
Really.
And for her, for Major, Scarlett Johansson's character, she is constantly questing her own personhood. She is trying to be a person and trying to understand what kind of a person she is. But to one of the other characters, you know, like the baddie, she is simply a weapon.
Yeah.
He refers to her as simply a weapon.
Straight off the bat.
And she's no different to him than a gun or a tank. And that's one of the fascinating dichotomies in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what's also really interesting is that, you know, there's that quote that they use a couple of times, which talks about the fact that you are not your memories, you are what you do in the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that's, when you first hear it, you think, yeah, absolutely, that's exactly who you are. You are what you're doing in the moment, and everything you've done before doesn't always matter. And then when you start realizing people's backstories, you think, no, we're so much more complex than that. We need to know why we're doing what we're doing in the moment. Otherwise, what's the point? And that for me was the big takeaway of this film.
So it was directed by this guy named Rupert Sanders. He's a really fascinating director because he basically made this ad for Halo 3 that won all these awards. And he's English. He's 6'4" and English. And he was married to a model. I think her name was Lily Ross. So he moved to Los Angeles on the basis of winning these international advertising awards for this ad for Halo 3, which is a video game.
Yep.
Off the back of winning these ad awards, he got to direct Snow White and the Huntsman, which cost $170 million. So, I mean, talk about being allowed to fly the jumbo jet before you've ever had the 100 hours practicing on the Cessnock. He just got to direct this huge movie based on these ads.
Yeah.
And while he was shooting that movie, he had an affair with Kristen Stewart, which
that.
destroyed his marriage and destroyed her on again, off again thing with Robert Pattinson.
God forbid we destroy that. It's very
God
upsetting.
forbid we destroy that. Well, it obviously didn't last because now she's come out as gay. So she's off doing that. I don't know what Rupert Sanders, but he, after Snow White and the Huntsman, has gotten to make this, which is another huge budget movie.
Yeah.
And I also liked Snow White and the Huntsman. That film impressed me in the same way. It was like, here's this incredibly expensive Hollywood product that is designed to make a lot of money, and it did, but it felt much darker and weirder and stranger than most big expensive Hollywood action movies. So somehow this guy, I don't know whether he's just the most charming 6'4" English guy in the world. I mean, he obviously must be charming to some degree to talk his way into his life situation, but he somehow gets away with doing these films that feel like art house movies at this huge expensive level. I mean, this film feels way more artsy-fartsy than Hollywood mainstream, doesn't it?
That's true, and I assumed it was to appeal to the anime watchers. I figured
It must to a degree.
You know, the main populace who are going to be watching it are going to be the people who are into quite arty things as anime is. So I figured they had to appeal to that. But yeah, you make a really good point with the director. Snow White and the Huntsman was kind of dark and creepy, and to think that you can get away with that so easily.
Yeah.
It's
He must really have a power of persuasion over people, you know.
Yeah.
To go from an ad to that to this, to be able to issue these cuts that are very strange and disquieting. You know, this is a disturbing movie, you know.
I was disturbed by the movie, absolutely. Especially, the humanity and the cyborgs I was disturbed by. And the way the whole thing's set up, the way it looks is quite disturbing as well.
And there's so much pain. It is just every character is pained and distressed and depressed.
But within that, there's still so much lightness. I mean, the relationship between Major and Pilau.
Pilau's character, the guy with the eyes.
Absolutely, it's just so light and refreshing and fun, and you can really believe the authenticity, and you believe that he believes that she is human.
Yeah.
You know, he never for a moment treats her as though she's any less than, which I think is so nice. She can't even believe that for herself, but she's got people who believe in it for her. I think, contrasting that darkness with that lightness is quite beautiful.
Yeah, their relationship is lovely, albeit once again odd and strange.
Yeah.
And of course, it doesn't go like in the traditional sort of romantic ways. You know, it's as close as this movie gets to romance is their relationship. So the scene on the boat after she's been having a swim, that's directly from the anime.
Okay.
But in the anime, there's a scene in that where she has this long monologue with this strange Hitchcockian rack focus that's just out of this world bonkers.
Yeah.
And it shows you that the source material is every bit as weird as this is. And so I think this will actually, I'm hoping that this will please those fans of the anime and the manga that are coming to it. I hope that it's tipped over into, that it's weird and strange and ideaful enough for them.
Yeah.
And I think it is.
Yeah, well,
I think the people it's going to baffle are the people off the street who go to see an action movie set in the future.
Yeah.
Because I think they'll find it really, really odd.
Yes. Yeah, whereas the oddities is what grabbed me, but the action sequences, I was like, enough.
Right.
Yeah.
So what did you think overall, just as a punter?
As a punter, I definitely feel when I first sat down, I was completely entranced by the music, and the shelling process was so beautiful. But as we got deeper into it, I felt like I was just watching cyborgs fight a lot. And I was just hoping for more of, I loved all the scenes where I saw the heart, but the scenes where that was not part of it, I zoned out.
Yeah. I could definitely recommend this to a specific group of friends and colleagues.
Yeah.
You know, I think like basically the nerdier and more into sci-fi tech you are, the better.
Yeah.
Because it really is a nerd's delight and it's full of tech. But the more you go into being a general audience member, the less I think this film is for you. Like, it really is. It's got integrity. It's way the hell over here.
It's so boundary pushing with what they do in terms of the technology. It's stuff that I've never seen before, and that really excited me. So I definitely recommend it to people who like that kind of style of thing.
Yeah. And I understand that the television sequel and prequel to the movie are even more tech crazy.
Oh, right.
Like that they're really, really tech.
I mean, if shows like this are not pushing the boundaries in terms of what they can do with technology, then who is?
Yeah.
So
I guess we can't talk about it without rounding off, and we don't need to dwell on it, but around the casting controversy. Because ever since Scarlett Johansson was announced that she was playing the Major, there has been a cry out about the fact that the Major was not being played by an Asian actor. Now, the anime is odd because the anime, most of them don't look Asian. Like, she does not look Asian, and even the character played by Beat does not look Asian. I mean, he's a Japanese actor. He's Asian, but in the anime, he does not look Asian. And a lot of the characters look Caucasian in the anime. And so it feels like a weird disconnect that there's a call out that she needed to be. But then when you look at her name beyond general, her actual full name, which I cannot remember right now, is an Asian name. So it's a tough one. What do you think?
I mean, I totally understand that it still fits within the film that she's not of that heritage because she's a cyborg. I mean, cyborg doesn't necessarily have to be anything. But at the same time, I think that there's an importance of giving credit to people who are not always getting work, and considering that this comes. I like the multicultural. Ramble. I like the fact that it's really multicultural, and I like that there are people from all different races and nationalities, because I think that's such an important part of the film. And I think it's important that they do have some people who are from like a Japanese background, but yeah, I think it works either way. I think it's more of a political argument than it is a film-based argument.
I think when those people who are angry about her casting see the movie, what they'll see is that the film is actually more diverse than the 1995 anime. And that was anime.
Yeah.
You know, it's because it's not just a lot of Asian actors, Japanese, Chinese, Korean actors, as well as some white actors, but there's all these Maoris, there's all these other colors and races and ethnicities going on. And it is a very, very diverse film.
Yeah.
It just happens to be that the lead actor, Scarlett Johansson, is white. So I think they'll actually be a lot more satisfied when they see it and see that the film's spread its diversity wings in all the other roles.
Absolutely. If everyone was played by someone who was white, then it'd be a real problem, and it would really not contribute to the world of the film.
Yeah. And I think partly, you know, she wanted to play this part, and that's partly, you know, how it became made, how it got made.
If she wants it based on her experience, how can you not give it to her?
Which is always their argument, is like it's pure economics. Until we have an Asian actor who can open a movie to whatever, then it's going to be Scarlett Johansson. Have a look to camera and tell us whether or not we should watch this.
I think that if you're a big fan of the anime, then of course you're going to go and see this. And if you're just looking for something that's a bit fun or want to see a lot of interesting technology happening, go watch it.
Yeah, I've got to say the same. I think if you are a fan of the anime, the manga, etc., watch it. You won't be disappointed. I think if you like your Marvel superheroes more than most things, I think you will find this just too strange, sad, and weird for your tastes. But that's what I liked about it. And if you like your Blade Runner and your gloomy sci-fi or your tech-heavy sci-fi, definitely a watch this from me.
Everyone around me, they feel connected to something. Connected to something I'm not. What are you?
Thanks for joining Miriam and I on Watch This. Don't forget to watch all the other programs available at skippy.tv. You can read my written reviews at filmmafia.com.au. While you're there, you can become a subscriber for free, get my reviews delivered to your inbox, and I've got a very in-depth written piece on Ghost in the Shell, so go check it out. Take care and make sure you see a movie at the cinemas this weekend.
Watch that, watch this, and I'll die